So hello and welcome to today's episode of Bully Beta, where today's episode we're covering the very first missions of Bully, which are Welcome to Bullworth and This Is Your School. Now these missions went through a lot of changes, as you can tell by the length of the video. So let's cut the crap and get straight onto the video. This is also one very messy mission, so some parts might not make any sense. But before we get onto the mission itself, let's cover some general changes. Now as many of us know, in the final game, Welcome to Bullworth is a very short mission. However, in the beta, Welcome to Bullworth was going to be one long tutorial mission, seamlessly stemming from Welcome to Bullworth into This Is Your School with no break in between. In the beta, Welcome to Bullworth ended as Jimmy entered the dorm, where then we'd play a much more different version of This Is Your School. So in the original game, upon starting a new game, there was a beta intro scene involving Jimmy and his parents, which was scrapped and instead a shorter version was used for the intro credits instead, with a bit of cutaway to show the school and the general surroundings. Now here's the scene in its full glory. If you've already seen this, skip to the timestamp on screen now.
Jimmy, please say something.
Speak to your mother, James.
What? Who are you? Mom, I thought you told me never to talk to strangers.
Like I said before, Jimmy, please be nice to your new stepfather.
Fine. Okay, rich guy. I love it that you're twice as old as my grandfather and you're fat and bald.
That's enough! I've had it with you, you little brat. All I want is a little peace and quiet with my new husband, and you insult him!
Now look what you've done. You've upset your mother. I've got half a mind to beat you.
Half a mind is right. Suddenly he realizes.
I can't believe you, you little monster. We'll deal with you when we get back from our honeymoon. Next year.
Finally. Here we are, boy. Bullworth Academy. Just the kind of place a sensitive soul like you needs. Have fun, Jimmy. I'll think of you from our cruise ship.
Whatever.
So why was this cut? Well, if I had to guess, it's because this cutscene is very poorly made. From the beginning we can see Peds walking in the floor, and we can clearly tell the car is teleporting, so my best guess is this was scrapped and remade because it's a very poor scene for those two reasons alone. So upon arriving at the gates of the academy, we begin Welcome to Bullworth. Now even though this is our very first scene of the game, there's still a few changes to be had. For example, Jimmy's outfit was a bit different. Now many of us know the beta school uniform Jimmy had, you know, like the brown work boots, the logoless vest and all that, but Jimmy originally had a different starting outfit. For example, Jimmy's brown jacket was originally supposed to be a brown hoodie instead, and this still exists in the game's files, but the only remains of it are just the cutscene models however. Jimmy's jeans are also a bit darker and much more low quality, which do match the quality of the 2005 E3 model. As for the cutscene itself, nothing was really changed aside from a few camera angles. So you know at the end of the Welcome to Bullworth cutscene where Miss Danvers and Jimmy enter the academy grounds, and you know when you start Miss Danvers isn't there? Well, in the beta, Miss Danvers would actually escort us to the office and we'd have to follow her, instead of her just, you know, disappearing out of thin air. And you know we have the three buddies here who will always taunt us? Well, in the beta, they had a completely different purpose, to notice you and go and tell Russell.
Hey, there's a new kid. Wonder what his name is.
Who cares? Let's go tell Russell. We'll get a little party together.
Now, as we make our way to Dr. Crabblesnitch's office, many of the students would make comments towards Jimmy, and none of these are used in the final game.
Hey, check it out. A new boy.
He looks kinda dumb.
That kid? Never seen him before.
Come on, child. Don't keep the good doctor waiting.
It also appears that we would get ambushed by the bullies, possibly beginning our fighting tutorial before we even meet Dr. Crabblesnitch. Now, for some strange reason, Mr. Baxendale appears in this mission, implying he might have been a teacher in the beta. You know, he's one of the townsfolk in the game.
Hey, new kid! I'm the boss! Prefect! You're dead, new kid! Dead!
Hey, new kid, go to the principal's office.
Russell hates new kids!
This is a warning, Hopkins. I'll let you off this time, but next time, you're going to the principal's office.
There were also multiple versions of the fight being broken up. As you just heard the one with Mr. Baxendale, there's another one with Edward, and of course one with Mr. Hattrick, so it implies that Welcome to Bullworth went through quite a few changes. So going off the quotes going into the principal's office, it hints that our meeting with Crabblesnitch took place instead of meeting Gary after the fight. Now this scene was different in the beta, as there's loads of leftover camera angles which clearly don't match up with the final game's cutscene. Also, the angles end shortly after Miss Danvers enters with Crabblesnitch's tea, so that implies this cutscene was going to be much more shorter. A very small snippet of the scene exists in the first trailer for Bully.
Those of yours, keep it clean.
So after this, Miss Danvers would start showing us around the school instead of Gary.
Most of your classes are going to be in this building. Art and photography is on the top floor. Your chemistry and biology classes are on this floor. You're in Mr. Galloway's English class, I believe. That's on this floor. There are morning and afternoon classes. You are expected to attend both classes at both times, but you may pick whatever class appeals to you. It's another one of Dr. Crabblesnitch's innovations. He is highly respected in educational circles.
I can imagine.
If you're not in class at the appropriate time, you can get in a lot of trouble. I'll take you past the fountain to the gym, Harrington House, and the auto shop.
But
first, I have to get some books from the library for Dr. Crabblesnitch. You know, he's a brilliant man.
yes, a brilliant man.
Exactly. Now come along. Another thing. New students aren't allowed off campus during the fall. We want everyone to get to know each other well before you go gallivanting off to town.
There's a lot of rules here.
Oh yes, it's great. Keeps you all in line. Bedtime is at 11 p.m. We're very strict about that. Here we are. You wait here until I get back.
Not bad.
Did you hear me, Hopkins? Wait for me here. Don't get in any trouble.
Yes, miss, I heard you.
Good.
Now notice how Miss Danvers says that biology and chemistry are on the same floor. In the final game, chemistry is on the ground floor and biology is on the top floor. Also, Miss Danvers actually mentions biology, which hints that it might have been a class originally planned for the PS2 version of the game, instead of it being scrapped and actually brought back for Scholarship Edition. Now this is further backed up because biology also makes an appearance in the third trailer for Bully, which gives us a feel for the school and the classes that are in the game and all that. Now some of you may have noticed Miss Danvers said this floor 3 times. This is because in the beta the Academy did have 3 floors. In fact, there's an unused graphic for art class which might have given us a slight look at the deleted 3rd floor. So after this, it appears we get our interaction or possible first encounter with Russell, as he would threaten us for money only to have Miss Danvers yell at us to go back to the office.
You, new kid, money.
Hopkins, what are you doing?
Nothing, miss.
You're going straight back to the office.
Now here's a massive change. It's here where we meet Gary. But here's the thing, somehow Jimmy knows Gary here, even though there's no other audio files. That implies we met him beforehand. So maybe this was changed multiple times, because, you know, I'm playing all the audio files I could find and there's been no actual, audio files of Jimmy meeting Gary, there's no leftover cutscenes, so, you know, it could imply that Welcome to Bullworth was changed quite a lot.
You look like you're pretty tough.
I can handle myself.
Well, brawn isn't everything. You gotta use your head sometimes.
You mean, like, headbutting them?
You're not incredibly stupid. That's a change of pace.
Gee, thanks, Gary.
Anyway, sorry to break away from this as well, but I'll quickly cover another beta version of Jimmy meeting Gary in the boys' dorm. In the original Jimmy meets Gary scene, there were deleted subtitles where Jimmy calls Gary a dickhead, and according to leftover files, they would have met in the lounge area, rather than, you know, the hallway. Also, if you pay attention to the original cutscene, at the end you can see Jimmy and Gary head left. This is because in the original beta, the dorm had 2 floors, which of course is, you know, common knowledge. Anyway, back to this. So Gary takes us to the cafe to show us the clicks. However, unlike the final game where we get a full rendered cutscene, it appears we got a different in-game scene instead. Much of the dialogue is the same, but it's changed quite a lot, and quite a lot of Gary's original lines are actually deleted.
Let's go to the caf. I'll show you the local wildlife. Let's go to the caf. I'll show you who's who.
All right.
Don't let the prefects see you break any rules. They'll hurt you. Careful around the prefects. They don't have much of a sense of humor.
Maybe I'll hurt them.
I doubt that very much.
They look pretty harmless.
Sneaky bastards, actually. The library is their turf.
Seems to be a lot of attitude around here. Or at least they try to look it. Whatever, man. I'm not afraid of some dumb roid monkeys.
Now after this, Gary gives us the rundown of some of the rules of the Academy. We also learn about what Gary might have gotten up to before Jimmy arrived.
Okay, so there's a bunch of things you're not supposed to do.
You mean, like skipping class? Or starting fights?
Obviously. But listen and I'll share my wisdom.
Do not use the fire extinguishers for anything but putting out fires.
Are there a lot of fires here?
No. Do not sneak into the girls' dorms or their bathrooms.
Speaking from experience?
No comment. If you see any rats, Don't step on them.
Also, do not pick them up and throw them at people.
Who would do such a thing?
Now after this we seem to get a cutscene or some kind of meeting with the nerds, who are all scared of Gary, as he shows us around the boys' dorm. Now it's here where it's closest to the final game, as Gary introduces us to drinks and changing clothes, alongside some nerd torment.
Watch out! It's Gary!
What's that all about?
Not much.
Budding criminals and hooligans, I imagine.
Here we are, the boys' dorm. You'll learn to love it.
I'm sure.
You should probably change into your uniform if you don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, I have a uniform. I guess it got put in my room.
Hang on. Need a drink.
Oh no, not again!
Give me a sec, I gotta do something.
Oh, hi, Gary. How's it going?
Ah, Gary!
No, not really.
Yeah, okay.
I've got something to do. Go change in your room, it's down the hall.
Now after this we'd get told to change into our uniform, and Gary says it's down the hall. Now this is because in the beta, Jimmy's dorm room was upstairs towards the end of the hall. We can only really see this because of the radar, however. Now a bit of a breakaway again, but in the final game, after changing our uniform, this is where we meet Pete. However, Pete does not appear in this mission at all. I think that's because after changing outfits is where we would have met him, you know, in a proper rendered cutscene, and we do have a very early snippet of this scene that exists in the game's files. Now it's only a few seconds long, but it contains the original voice actor of Jimmy and confirms Jimmy's room was on the upstairs floor.
You guys want to give me some time to settle in? Get unpacked? You're not too interested in yourself, friend. Jimmy can't stand you already. Jimmy, but if you want to hang out, go in the dorm downstairs.
So to me, this confirms that we wouldn't have met Pete in the mission, but we would have met him in the cutscene, and this was the plan from the very beginning. I mean, come on, we've got the original Jimmy voice actor script here, for God's sake. I don't think it gets any more clearer than that. Anyway, back to the mission, because the mission still isn't over yet. This is probably why the mission was changed so much, was to cut the length down a lot. Anyway, after getting changed, Miss Danvers tells us to meet her outside the library, where we will then ask Christy where it is, where she has different responses depending on how Jimmy spoke to her.
Meet me at the library. If you don't know where it is, ask that girl for directions.
Hey, can you tell me where the library is?
Sure, it's right outside between the boys' dorm and Harrington House.
Hey, Ugly! Where's the library?
It's right outside, dumbass. Can't miss it.
Now, another strange thing here is, for some reason, Edward the Prefect has quotes for calling Jimmy Monkey Boy and then berates Jimmy for not being in uniform. This could mean that in the beta you could change out of your uniform after changing into it for some of that attention to detail Rockstar are quite good at.
Stop this fighting immediately! Monkey boy! Get out of here before I hurt you! Why are you not in your uniform? Go change immediately! I have my eye on you, new kid!
Now this is where the entire mission becomes a bit weird, because the mission quotes don't end here, but it seems to be a weird, unorganised mix of the final This Is Your School and a cut objective that was never added to the final game with Bucky. Now usually with Buddy's audio files they're organised really well, like for example if a conversation between Jimmy and Gary happened, it's usually listed in a proper order. Like Jimmy might be, you know, say Jimmy _ 034 and then Gary's would be Gary _ 35 etc. But these are really messy, which implies the final mission we got in the final version was just insanely rushed to hell. My best guess is after this mission was majorly overhauled, most objectives were kept but they were changed to be a lot shorter, which explains why the earlier files were much more organised but the last few are not. Also, another strange choice here is Mr. Hattrick's lines from Welcome to Bullworth are used in This Is Your School. Anyway, let's play them.
Hey, you! Break it up! You, go change into your uniform!
I'm gonna see if I can find... What are you doing?
Someone stole my one-eyed elf, and I need him for tonight's game. Could you get him back for me? I'll give you $5 if you get it back for me. Did you find him yet? I really need that elf for tonight's quest, Jimmy! We're going into the sewers! If I don't get that elf back, I'll never hear the end of it from Algernon! Thanks! Now I'll be able to get level 6 and max out my mining skill!
Remember me? You're dead!
So after this, as we know, Get to Class would play out. However, for some strange reason there are no actual mission quotes, as Edward's quote of "You're here to learn, not to goof off" is just a generic quote by him which he might say when he sees you skipping class. I also find it weird that the quotes end at the library, possibly meaning that Get to Class began there. Like say, after arriving Miss Danvers points out it's nearly time for class, but there's no quotes that are left over for this. So This Is Your School would have ended at the library, to what we know of anyway. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, subscribe for more Buddy content. If you want to support me in a more personal way, become a member of my channel. Thank you for watching and have a great day.